is to be able to do this. All right. Today we're going to talk about self-advocacy, but we're going to take a different spin on it, especially for those that are going back to school, for those who are starting a new job and are really going to be out in public. So this is an important topic so that you can deal with being around and with people. So, hello everyone, this is Lisa, and welcome to World Wheelchair Warriors, where we talk about everything wheelchairs, and this is about wheelchairs. It's just about the person who's in the wheelchair. So it's a little different. So we're talking beyond the mechanics and the parts of the wheelchair, taking care of your wheelchair. We're going to put that aside. We're going to talk about you today and being out in the public. So as wheelchair users, we're not just navigating physical spaces, we're constantly interacting with the public, which is very true. And those interactions can range from wonderfully supportive to, well, less ideal. This class is about giving you the tools that you need to be confident and navigate those encounters with grace, strength, and power to educate. Yes, we become educators once we start using a wheelchair. Don't ask me why. It just happens. So here we go. Let's be honest. At some point of us, most of us are going to encounter the well-meaning but overly curious person. And they're going to ask you really weird questions. But the basic question that really comes up most of the time is, what happened to you? Or the other one is, why are you in a wheelchair? So, while curiosity is part of being a person and a human being, these questions can feel intrusive and frankly none of their business. So, and you need to keep that in mind. None of their business is a really important phrase. So the key here is to have a few go-to responses in your toolkit, and you might have one already. So, first, you have to have the brief and polite approach. The casual encounters with strangers, a simple, I have a mobility issue, thank you for asking. End of story. You don't need to tell them the whole kit and caboodle now or ever. So, or even just, it's a long story, you don't want to hear the whole kit and caboodle, can be enough to satisfy their curiosity without you having to divulge your medical history or being rude to them. Because being rude will turn them off. And, a lot of times people think that we are angry people, we're depressed, and that's not the truth. Not for me anyway. I'm not angry, I'm not depressed. It's just you're asking a question that I'm not going to answer. So, second, consider the educational response. It's another way. If you feel like you have the energy and the person seems genuinely curious about, rather than nosy, you might choose to share a little bit more. But, for example, I have a spinal cord injury, or I live with a disability that affects my mobility, because it can be an illness. You control how much you share or share nothing. So, third, don't underestimate the power of humor. So sometimes lighthearted responses can diffuse an awkward situation. You can say with a smile, My chair and I are a package deal. Or it's a faster way to get around Milwaukee or San Francisco or New Orleans. And insert a chuckle there. And finally, remember, you have the right to say nothing, depending on the interaction, because I don't know, I have no way of reading, the interaction or the interaction that's going to happen in the future, and you'll be the one in the situation. So if you don't feel like sharing, a simple, I prefer not to talk about it, is perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. Your personal medical information is what? Yeah, it's private. You don't have to tell anybody. So you don't have to say anything. This is a big one. While many people offer help with good intentions, and boy, do they ever, especially to manual wheelchairs. Not so much to power wheelchair users, but manual wheelchair users, it's up and down. Unwanted, uncoordinated assistance can actually be unsafe, as you know, and can undermine our independence. So it's crucial to learn how to set clear boundaries. I've had people with the intention of trying to push me or wanting to push me. I'm in a power wheelchair. Once I take my hands off of the joystick, this puppy is not moving anywhere. But for manual wheelchairs, it's a little bit more touch and go because people want to give you a push or can I give you a lift or, you'll get there faster if I help you. You don't know how much experience they've had pushing a wheelchair. You don't know what their intentions are, if you know this person or you don't. If you know the person, you're good friends, blah, 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 it's your girlfriend, then go at it. But if you don't know these people, then, you might say, no, thanks, I'm doing great. I like to propel myself on my own. So the first step is to anticipate and to have your own statements, per se. When someone approaches you quickly or reaches for your chair without asking, which can be a little bit more scary, have a polite but firm phrase ready. Something like, thank you for offering, but I've got it. Or I appreciate the thought, but I'm managing okay. Say it clearly and make eye contact so that they hear you and they also see your face. If someone does start pushing you without permission, it's okay to be, to say firmly, please stop. I'm in control of my chair. And I'll tell a story in a few seconds. Remember, your chair is an extension of your body, and someone grabbing your chair without consent is a boundary violation. Not an oopsie, it's a boundary violation. So when you do need help, be specific instead of just saying, I need help with this ramp. Say, could you please guide me from the side as I go up this ramp so you don't slip off? This gives the person clear instructions and keeps you in control of the situation. So that's really important. Keeps you in control. I know a gal, well, I don't know her personally, but in the UK, there was a gal that was going about her business. She was taking a stroll out in a park of some kind, and this guy came from behind her. There was another guy watching from afar and saw what was happening, but he started pushing her without saying anything, without, all of a sudden he started pushing her, and she asked him to stop, and he didn't. And he kept on pushing her and pushing her. And it got more scary as she repeated the request for him to stop, and to stop now, to stop immediately. And, she was raising her voice, and she was getting really nervous about the situation. And the other guy, who saw the situation from afar, started walking in a quick pace and got in this guy's face and said, "Stop and let go of that chair now." So she was lucky. Now, this could happen to any one of us. For us who are in power wheelchairs, it's a little different. But my suggestion is, if this ever happens to any manual wheelchair users out there, have a personal alarm on you, on your keychain or whatever you can reach it. I like this one. These are rechargeable. Some are rechargeable. Others have batteries, those round batteries. But this one is a rechargeable. So plug it in there. It also has a flashlight. And then you can, put it as a Batman signal, the bat signal. But, these are really, really useful. If that gal had one of these and triggered it, because you just pull this out, that guy from a distance would have made a beeline to come and help her. But also this will throw somebody off. It's very loud. So, get yourself a personal alarm so that doesn't happen, especially for manual wheelchairs. It's also important to trust your gut. If the situation feels unsafe or uncomfortable, it's okay to politely disengage and move away if you can. Also, if you feel like somebody's following you, somebody's watching you, it's very uncomfortable, go into a store or to an office of some kind to kind of get away from the situation and put yourself in a safer environment. Advocacy doesn't always mean staging protest or writing to politicians, though those are important. Everyday advocacy is about the small and consistent actions we take to educate others and make our communication more accessible and inclusive. So, really important. Because I've talked about advocacy, but your advocacy to change something. So this is a little different. When you encounter an accessibility issue, a blocked ramp or non-working automatic door, don't be afraid to politely bring it to attention to staff or management. Never. A simple, "Excuse me, the ramp to enter is blocked by this sign or by this car or by this whatever. Could someone please move it?" Can make a big difference, not just for you, but for others that might be coming. So I've had to do that. I really have. At grocery stores, sometimes in the spring or the fall, they put a lot of flowers, a lot of potted flowers outside of the store so people can pick up and buy them. But they're blocking the sidewalk, and I can barely get through. Because sometimes I take the bus right in front of the grocery store, and all those piles of flowers block my way to get to the bus. So sometimes I've had to say, hey, a few flowers is fine, but that much is blocking my way. So use opportunities to educate. If someone asks a question based on a misconception about wheelchair users, take a moment gently to share accurate information. That's really important for all of us. Unfortunately, we become the ambassadors. So, for example, if someone says, "It must be so hard to be stuck in a chair," you could respond with, "Actually, my wheelchair gives me a lot of freedom and independence. They don't know that. They think that you're suffering, that you're being tortured. So lead by when you navigate. So, lead them into, a better way of thinking. When you navigate the public spaces confidently and respectfully, you show others that wheelchair users are active and engaged members of the community here in Milwaukee and anywhere in the world. So, as ambassadors, we gotta think of that way. We're ambassadors of the disabled community. Remember, every time you politely educate someone or advocate for better access, you've not just helped yourself. You're paving the way for a more inclusive future for everyone else. Now, sometimes you don't want to advocate for everybody else. You just want to get through your day. And I get that. But just know that the little good you can do for yourself, you also extend that goodness to others. It's a chain reaction. Just think of it that way. So I won't go on with this. I could tell other stories, but that's our masterclass on the art of advocacy and a little bit of safety for you. It's about knowing your rights, setting boundaries, and using your everyday experiences as opportunities to educate and create positive change. Positive change. It takes practice. It certainly does. And it's okay to feel nervous sometimes. Some of us are not great in public or in public speaking, but just those little pieces that we can memorize will be helpful. With these tools in your belt, you can navigate the public with greater confidence and make a real difference for yourself, especially. I'd love to hear from you, as always. This is a community, so, what are some of your go-to phrases or strategies that you've used to handle public situations? Share your wisdom in the comments below. As always, it's really important that we teach each other and we can all learn from our experiences, mine and yours. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for this important class. If you find it useful, please mark the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more videos or classes on Friday. So I try to dig up topics that would be useful and important for each of us, on navigating life and a seated perspective. Keep advocating for yourself. Always stay strong, and I'll see you, guess when? Next Friday. All right, people, take care. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll see you in the next one.